Hi guys, it's Finn. Right, I talk a lot about anxiety in my vlogs, but I've never made a specific video about it, so I thought I would do that and just talk a little bit about how my anxiety is for me, how I experience it, and what I'm doing to kind of get over it. Well, when I say anxiety, I always like to make it clear that this is a clinical diagnosis of anxiety. This isn't just me feeling a little bit nervous and what have you. The way I try and explain it to people who don't experience this is, imagine yourself in your most anxiety-provoking situation, maybe a job interview. So you get up in the morning for your job interview and your stomach's kind of flipping, and you might even have a little bit of an upset stomach because of it. You can't really eat. You kind of can feel your heart going all the time, and you're quite hot, and you kind of over breathing like that, and you get there and you're in the waiting room and you're just kind of waiting to hear your name, and you can feel your skin all prickly and everything. It's like that 24/7. Imagine that situation, but you wake up with it. It's there throughout the day, throughout your going about your normal life, and it's there when you're trying to get to sleep. No rest. That's what it's like, and it's absolute worst. That is what my anxiety is like. It is not as bad as it used to be. In the last 3 years since getting sober, I've managed to do a lot of work on it, and it's a lot more manageable. But it still has a huge impact on my daily life, and is very, very crippling. A lot of people kind of remark that they're surprised. A lot of people look at me and they see this confident, bubbly chap, seem very capable. But of course, I am capable. Anxiety is part of a mental health problem. It doesn't affect your intelligence. Tell that to some of these Atos people that do the benefit interviews over here in the UK. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I often appear okay, but actually inside, I'm dying. Absolutely dying. But I've learned over years and years and years that you have to fake it to make it. The more I kind of sit in my head going, I'm anxious, I'm anxious, I'm anxious, the worse it gets. You know, I shake so bad sometimes you can see it in my head, and it's so awful. But the more I focus on that, the worse it is. So by just kind of acting confident, the rest of me follows suit, and it's okay. So it's one of those hidden things that people just don't realise that's there most of the time, and that in itself can be very, very frustrating. Very frustrating. You know, I'd love to get back to work, but it's kind of a knock-on thing, anxiety, because if I do a high anxiety event, sometimes that can just be meeting someone for coffee, and it gets me really anxious. Then I can crash afterwards, you know, because having to push myself through the anxiety and kind of cope with it is exhausting, absolutely exhausting. So going back to work is just not possible right now, because I have to really, really watch my sobriety, my recovery. And of course, if I'm running at too high anxiety and I crash, then my mood crashes as well, and then I'm in dangerous territory in terms of a relapse. So although I'm so much more stable than I was, I'm so much more well than I was, it's not at that level enough to be able to venture out to work. And yeah, that's really frustrating. For those of you that follow my videos, you remember that last October I thought I was ready, tried some volunteer work, and it went wrong very quickly, and I nipped it in the bud before it went seriously wrong, and I was devastated because I really thought I was ready. But there you go, it's just something that I have to accept, and actually acceptance is a big part of getting over anxiety. Facing it and accepting it, because for years and years and years I drank on it, stupidly thinking that that was the best way forward, so I didn't have to deal with it, and of course it made it worse. Facing it is not easy. I'm lucky that I have AA, I have a really good support network in AA. And as part of my ongoing sobriety, of course, you know, challenging my anxiety is what it's all about. And having a safe environment and the 12-step program to help me face my anxiety is what's helped me. I think it's really important, if you do have a problem of anxiety, is to find some kind of support that works for you, whether it's just like a close group of friends or a special self-help group, anything, because it's not easy facing the anxiety, but it's the only way to cure it. The more you kind of keep avoiding it, the worse it gets. It's a spiral. And so yeah, acceptance plays into that, because there are times when I'm just so anxious, I can't do anything about it, it's just there. So I have to just accept it. If I try and fight it, it just gets worse. So I then just have to say, right, I accept it, what can I do at this moment? Sometimes it's just like, okay, the event you had set up for today, you're going to have to cancel, it's too much. And that's a constant evaluation for me of kind of like accepting where I am with it, and accepting sometimes I can push forward and I have to, and other times I can't. Meditation is a great thing. I can't stress enough how amazing meditation is for all manner of things. It really, really is. It really helps you to get back the reins of your mind, because so often when anxiety kicks in, it's really hard to think straight. All you can think about is escape. You know, at the worst case, when I was having bad panic attacks, which I haven't had for 3 years, I get on the verge of a panic attack now, but I'm able to talk myself down. Because I meditate, I'm able to kind of just take a step back and gradually just kind of calm myself down and back off a bit. And also meditation helps in kind of having a real deep inner knowledge of yourself, because challenging anxiety requires a huge amount of self-honesty, because there are times where I've got something booked in for the day that causes a high amount of anxiety, and what kicks in then is the need to avoid. Avoidance is tied into my anxiety. My needing duvet days is tied into my anxiety. So if I've got, say I'm meeting a friend for coffee, and that morning I'm just so anxious it's driving me nuts, sometimes I might think I just want to cancel. And that's when meditation comes in, because I have to take a step back and go, right, am I wanting to cancel because this genuinely is too much for me? Or am I wanting to cancel because it scares me? And there are times where I have to say, in this instant, I have to just go and face it. And there are other times where I say, in this instant, it's right to cancel it. And that is a very fine balance and requires a lot of honesty, because if I'm very honest, pretty much 80% of the time, I actually want to just stay under the duvet and not face life. That's the honest truth. It really is the honest truth. Obviously, once I get out there and spend time with people and do things, I feel really good. But because the anxiety is there, as sad as this sounds, it would be so much easier just to live in a little bubble and pull the duvet over and just not bother with life. But of course, I want to be happy. I want to be able to be with people, so I keep challenging it all the time. Yeah, I mean, I constantly am doing one thing or another. At the moment, it's drama therapy, because I'm really, really trying to challenge this fear I have of making a prat of myself, which I think feeds into my anxiety a lot. And boy, we make big prats of ourselves in drama therapy. So yeah, that's going to be really good for me, and also being with other people. But again, it's like a safe environment, because it's all trans people, so I feel very safe there. Just the actual act of getting to London is a big deal in itself. So this is what I mean. It's constantly kind of stepping out of your comfort zone, because when you're in your comfort zone, it's just nice and pretty and safe and flowery. You're not going to do anything. You have to keep gradually increasing it all the time. And that's what I'm constantly doing with one thing or another. Counselling is also a really, really, really good idea. I've had various forms of counselling over the years. And I do a lot of kind of like self-help stuff as well, with like certain books I read. And there are certain workshops that I can go to. We've got something called Brahma Kumaris, which is fantastic here in England. And they do kind of self-esteem and positive thinking and all that sort of stuff. So I'm constantly doing that to try and help myself as well. And counselling is great. Even though I've had a lot of counselling, every now and again I'll have another little bit. Because you can do a lot of work on yourself. I read so many different kind of spiritual psychology books and workshop books, things like that, and do a lot of work on myself. And I have a high level of self-awareness cultivated through meditation and reflection over the years. But everyone's got blind spots, and you can't see your own blind spots, and it's really, really important. This is why I say spending time with a community that supports you, because they see your blind spots, as does a counsellor. Now, I had this a little while ago. I had a massive crash at the beginning of the year, and I kind of had to go back on antidepressants and kind of sort myself out a little bit, and I had some counselling as part of that. and it helped me so much, because this counsellor pointed out things to me that I'd missed, and some of them were a bit hard to take because I was a bit like, oh bugger, I thought I'd sorted that, like talking about how much control I still need to have on things. Like, if I'm going anywhere, I'll have a very planned route in my head. If I'm on the bus, I'll have the right change in my pocket ready, because I don't like fumbling for change on a bus, because I get all anxious that there might be a queue and the driver might think I'm a complete turd. You know, silly little things like this feed into my anxiety, so I make kind of provision so I don't have to get in anxious situations. This is also why when I see people in town, I tend to just avoid them, because meeting people off the cuff without any preparation frightens me. Right, but this counsellor pointed out just how much I'm actually making this worse, because I have a constant dialogue in my head about what I'm going to do, when I'm going to say, what I'm going to say, when I'm going to say it, and I hadn't realised just how much I was still doing that. Now, with meditation, this is frustrating because I meditate all the time and yet I'd miss this. With meditation, I've learnt to kind of watch the mental chatter of the negative thoughts and stuff like that. I don't do the self-deflating talk anymore, that's all stopped. But this counsellor was dead right. I am constantly, when I walk to meet a friend for coffee, I'm already running through the sort of things that I'm going to say, the sort of things that they're going to say, how I'm going to respond, because I get so worried about saying the wrong thing or not being interesting enough. So by the time I get there and we're trying to talk, it's very difficult to have a conversation because it's not spontaneous, you know. And I was noticing the difference between when I chat online to someone and when it's face to face. When I chat online, it's so free flowing. I know instantly what to say. There's no anxiety. I love it. But face to face, there's just so much worry and all this inner dialogue. So I've been learning to let go of little things like not having the change in my pocket, so that when I get on the bus, I've just got to fumble for it, and little things like this to challenge it, you know, and just not thinking beforehand what I'm going to say, and just like being in an AA meeting and not planning what I'm going to say as it goes round, just literally blurting out anything. And that's really scary to let go of that control, but it's so much easier to then, when I'm with someone, to have a real conversation without me kind of doing this in my head thing. Balance is also really important and something that I'm constantly trying to work with. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm very aware that I do, and seeing this counsellor really helped me to kind of like remember how much I do that. I take so much on, and whenever I do something, I always have to do it to the best of my ability, which of course is exhausting, because nobody can be the best at everything. So I'm just trying to remind myself of that, and just kind of always look at my priorities. What is it I really want to do? And if this is what I really want to do, then this other thing which I want to do as well, you know, maybe just not to as high a standard as I need to, you know, just doing the best that I can do with anything. You know, just not putting that pressure on myself all the time to be perfect, you know. It's okay to be human, it's okay to make mistakes. It's alright saying that, but nothing, you know, it is okay to make mistakes. You see, the good thing about counsellors is they can help you to really break down what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis and understand that a lot better. It can be useful to see where these things have come from. I mean, I do know that a lot of my anxiety comes from when I was a child. You know, we did have a difficult relationship in our family with our parents, and there was a lot of pressure there to kind of be a certain way, you know, and that does feed into how I am now. So I think when you look at counselling, it can be really useful to work with a counsellor that can take you back to the root of some of these problems, so that you can understand them and let go of them and leave them where they should be back then, and stop using them in the now. But at the same time, it's also very useful to have just cognitive stuff that is just stuff that's the here and now, because you can understand your past till you're blue in the face, but unless you actually change your present, you know, it's not going to move you anywhere. So yeah, I think the main things I do really in order to deal with my anxiety is constant acceptance. If I get some anxiety come up, then I'll go, okay, is there anything I can do about it? If there is, I'll do it. If there isn't, I just have to accept it. Sometimes it'll be like I've put something off doing, so by actually doing it, facing the anxiety, and doing this thing, my anxiety will then lower. Sometimes it'll just be nameless and I'll just have to say, I feel anxious today. All I can do is just chill out, put my feet up, read a nice book, do something nice to myself, you know. Acceptance is the key. Meditation, really, really good idea. There are loads of amazing meditation books out there. Meditation does not have to be a religious ceremony. A lot of people hear the word meditation and they imagine kind of like a religion or what have you. It's mind training. Our minds are computers. They're incredibly capable, amazing computers, but unfortunately they often run on their own, autopilot, and we leave them to it. And that doesn't help if you've got a problem with mental health. You need to get control back of your mind. So meditation will help you to do that and help you to be more mindful in your daily life and help you to respond to situations rather than react, which is something I've learnt a lot. You know, if I get really anxious now, I no longer just kind of like rush in. I'm able to kind of step back and think about it. And get in a sense of community, get in whatever your community is, whether it's a small group of friends that know you have this anxiety problem and can support you with it, or whether it's, you know, if you're like me that's got an issue like drugs and alcohol, AA is an absolutely amazing place. It's not just got me sober, it's helped me to kind of manage my life as well, which is amazing. So yes, acceptance, community, meditation, and challenging the hell out of it. You know, not a day goes past when I'm not challenging it in one way or another, whether it's on a small scale or a large scale. I've had, since starting testosterone, it has made an amazing difference. I do think that my anxiety is kind of like two-level, really. It's part biology and it's part learned. There's obviously some chemical stuff going on, which means I run at quite high anxiety. We've all got the fight and flight adrenaline in us. So when a situation presents itself that's a bit scary, we either like run or fight it. And obviously I've got more high adrenaline because I kick into that mode very, very quickly. But at the same time, over years and years and years of avoiding it, over years and years and years of learned behaviour of just kind of like not dealing with it, I've got all that to undo, so it's twofold. Because when I went into AA and got sober, it lowered, because obviously the biology of so much drink wasn't helping. And then since testosterone, it's lowered, so that's the biology side. But there is still the learned behaviour side that I myself have to deal with. You know, testosterone isn't going to solve everything. I've got to put the effort in myself. And so that's what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and a week-to-week basis, is meeting up with new people, facing the fear and feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I want to say to anybody that's met up with me for coffee, don't stress. It's not anything you've done, because a few people have said to me, oh, I hope I didn't make you anxious. Nobody makes me anxious. It's not that. It's never, ever anything personal. I get anxious with Nat. I get anxious with my mum. It makes no sense. Everybody who I've ever met for a cup of coffee, that I've met through YouTube or anywhere else, I've absolutely loved it. Loved it. The fact that I'm anxious does not take away from the fact that I've loved it, and it's nothing that anybody does. It's just me. And so please, when you hear me talk about this and then you meet me, do not feel responsible, because it's not your fault. It's just the nature of it. But it's getting a lot better, and I have absolute faith that with me kind of feeling really comfortable in myself and challenging it, it's going to lower. You know, it might come a time where I might always have a higher level of anxiety than most people. I don't know, but that's where acceptance comes in. At the moment, my anxiety is much lower than it was 3 years ago. It's actually much lower than it was 3 months ago. So I have hope. But there's always, I never sit and think, oh, I want less, I want less. I accept that it's at the level it is now. This is how much anxiety I've got now, I accept it. What can I do right now? Okay, there's a drama group, I'll join that. You know, things like that. So I'm always accepting where it is at its level, and then doing what I can, and then if it drops again, brilliant. But, you know, there's no kind of like expecting it or hoping for it to lower, because I might just have to accept that this is who I am. But if I can manage to get around it enough that I can go back to work, that would be fantastic. I'm just going to say a little thing about ATOS. ATOSers. Over here in the UK, we do have to have these benefit medical things, and I find it really, really, really unfair that they can meet you for 30, 40 minutes and make a decision on you based on that. It's not on mental health is very, very difficult to make an assessment on. And my doctor, my therapist, everybody says, keep doing what you're doing, Finn. You know, you're doing really, really well. You've got a lot going on with transition happening, and just like learning to live in the world as a man, plus dealing with the physical side of being on hormones. Just keep yourself sane and stable, and then worry about work a little bit later on. People that know me, Atos, don't know me from Adam, tell me I'm fit for work. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have a ridiculous system over here in the UK. We really, really do. And it needs to change. So I hope that, as well as helping people understand anxiety and how I deal with it, maybe somebody from the government will actually watch this video as well and realise that just because I'm intelligent and that I'm sitting in front of you and I'm not on the floor rocking, that this is still an issue. And I am not just sitting around on my butt waiting for it to go. I'm working really, really, really hard on challenging it so I can get back to work. If I get rushed back to work now, I have a high chance of relapse, and then I'm not going to be any use to anyone. I am going to be a fantastic therapist and a great member of society once I'm well, and I'm getting there. So have a little bit more respect for the people that actually understand what people are going through, and don't expect to make a judgment on someone in 40 minutes of meeting them that they're alright just because they happen to be coping that day. It's not on. Right, I'm going to leave it there before I really seriously get on a soapbox and get myself in a world of trouble. I hope that helped, and if anyone wants to chat, feel free. I'm very open about all this stuff, as you can see. It's fine. A problem shared is a problem half, as they say. Right, take care of yourselves, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.